Hey guys, welcome back. So this week our letter is Q, and Q is going to stand for Queen. So there is a girl in the Bible named Esther, and we're going to learn about her today because she was the brave queen. Esther was Jewish. That means she was an Israelite. She lived in the land of Persia with her older cousin Mordecai. The king of Persia needed a new queen. He announced, "Bring me the most beautiful women from all over my kingdom." Esther was one of those women sent to the palace. When the king met Esther, he chose her to be his queen. Haman was the king's chief helper. He hated the Jewish people. They were God's people. Haman wanted everyone to bow down to him. Mordecai refused to bow down to Haman, and Mordecai would only bow down to his God. Haman went to the king and he said, "The Jews are bad people. You should sign a law that will help me get rid of them." So the king signed a new law. God's people were in great danger. I would be scared if I was one of God's people back then. Mordecai heard about the new law. He ran to tell Esther, "You must save yourself and the rest of God's people. Perhaps God has made you queen for this reason." So Esther came up with a plan. It would be very risky for her. Esther invited the queen and king and Haman to a special dinner. She asked the king, "Why does Haman want to get rid of me?" The king was surprised. She said, "I am Jewish. Haman tricked you into signing a new law that would get you rid of all the Jews." Oh, look how surprised Haman is that he's figuring out that he's in trouble now. The king told his guards, "Arrest Haman." Then he made Mordecai his new chief helper. He told Queen Esther, "I will make a new law that will keep you and your people safe." God used Esther to save his people. So Esther was a girl that God used to help his people in a very special way. She was a Jew living a very long way from home in a country where Jews were looked at with suspicion. Do you know what suspicion is? It's where people were looked at very like they were going to do something wrong. She lived almost 500 years before Jesus was on earth in Persia, which is now the country that we call Iran. Esther didn't have the easiest start to her life. She was an orphan who was raised by a kind uncle, Mordecai. He would have taught her about her place among God's chosen people, the Jews, and all that used to happen in the temple back in Jerusalem when he was a boy. She grew up to be a beautiful woman with a good character and a quick mind. And Esther and her uncle lived near the king's palace. And her good looks caught the attention of the king's advisors. They thought that she would make a great queen. But she was in competition with many other girls, because whoever became the king's wife also became queen. The king liked Esther better than everyone else, so she became the queen of the Persian Empire. Not long after this, though, one of the king's advisors, which was Haman, decided to make life difficult for all of the Jewish people. No one could approach the king to try to help them except Esther, because she was the queen. She was very scared because the queen could not go see the king without a special invitation. She couldn't just show up. She would have been killed for doing it. But thousands of lives were at risk, so she plucked up the courage to go see the king, who asked him to save the Jewish people. Her courage was rewarded. The king stopped the people from being killed and punished Haman for it. Queen Esther happened to be in the right place at the right time, or so it would seem. But she was put there by God on purpose for that very reason, to save her people. In Esther 4, verse 14, a book in the Old Testament, we read about Esther. "Yet who knows if perhaps you were made queen for such a time as this," the Bible says. An orphan girl who became queen and turned out to be one of the best heroes ever. If I could pick a superhero of the Bible, it would be Esther. Because she was courageous and brave, and even though she may have been a little bit scared, she still stood up for what was right. So this week, you have a coloring page for Esther, and it's a picture of her at dinner with the king and Haman, telling him to please save her people. Also, you have a maze that helps you get Esther to her uncle. I also included a link to a YouTube video, and it's the story of Esther done by the VeggieTales, which happens to be my favorite Christian cartoon. So go out today, be brave, be courageous, and let people know that you're a child of God. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.